Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is May 5th, 2025, and today we're going to be talking about the Champions League match tomorrow between Barcelona and Inter Milan in the second leg of the semifinals. Also, Luis Rubiales have filed a complaint against Javier Tebas, which could mean the end of the presidency of La Liga's president. And finally, we're also going to talk about Barcelona's goalkeepers. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and this is the Barca News live podcast where we discuss Barcelona news and where I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting the discussion going. And of course, podcasts are on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. For those of you who be watching when the podcast ends, don't worry. We'll be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion. Just get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to the Goal Kids, Kid Bag, or Fanatics. If you are looking to place any sports bet, including bets on tomorrow's match between Barcelona and Inter Milan, make sure you hit the Bet Us. All links are down below in the description. You click on them, you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers. All right, let's begin with the news because, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm very, very hyped. All of last week, I was out of the country, so I didn't do any podcasts, but now I'm back in my YouTube studio. I cannot wait to do this podcast because of course, podcasts are my favorite days. Why? Because I get to read you guys' comments in the chat section, and I have to say, I missed all of you. You know, doing videos or doing short lives while you're away, it's not the same as sitting here, reading your comments, interacting with you guys live. So I'm very, very excited for today's podcast. And let's begin with the news and let's talk about tomorrow's match because, ladies and gentlemen, the Champions League is back. The champions! Because tomorrow, Barcelona are set to play the second leg of the Champions League semifinal against Inter Milan in San Siro, an away match that will be a difficult challenge for Barcelona. Because right now on aggregate it's 3-3. So tomorrow it's do or die. If we want to make it to the final, we have to win tomorrow's match. And it's going to be a difficult match because Inter Milan is probably the strongest opponent that Barcelona have faced during this season. They have an incredibly strong defense and they're very good on counter attack. So Barcelona are going to have to find a way to take apart Inter Milan's defense and, of course, be very, very cautious with those counter attacks that, as we saw during the first leg, did cause us some damage. So tomorrow, do or die. This whole week is do or die because, of course, after the semifinal against the Champions League, what do we have? We have a Clásico match against Real Madrid, which could also define the trajectory of the league because if, God forbid, Barcelona lose, that would put Real Madrid only 1 point away from Barcelona. So this week will be a big step either towards glory and a chance of winning the treble because we can make it to the final of the Champions League and we can make a 7-point gap between us and Madrid if we win the Clásico, which would pretty much put an end to La Liga. Or it could also spell disaster if we end up losing against Inter Milan because we would be knocked out of the Champions League. And if we lose against Madrid, that puts La Liga title in jeopardy. It wouldn't be over. We would still be a point ahead, but it would put it in jeopardy. So this will be a big, big week for our team, which hopefully we will emerge victorious. Now, let's focus on tomorrow's match. Let's forget about El Clásico. There'll be a different day to talk about El Clásico. Now, let's talk about tomorrow's match because what I feared has been confirmed. If you guys don't remember, I made a video a few days ago talking about that there was a ref that was being considered for tomorrow's match. His name is Simon Marciniak. And, well, it's been confirmed. Simon Marciniak will be the referee for tomorrow's match. If you don't know who he is, he's a Polish referee who reffed the match between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. He's the ref who decided to cancel the penalty kick that was scored, the penalty goal that was scored by Julian Alvarez for that supposed double touch, which to me, honestly, I can't say clearly one way or the other whether there was a double touch or not. If you think so, I don't know, maybe you saw something different. I cannot say for sure that it was a double touch or not. But of course, we do know there is a pending allegations from Atletico Madrid fans who hired forensic experts and that say that the footage that UEFA provided to prove the double touch was actually doctored. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. That was the referee from the Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid match. And of course, this picture became viral because there he is in a dressing room. You see his toiletry bag right there circled in the red. And what's on it? A Real Madrid logo. Yes, this is the days that we live in where a referee could, who's supposed to be impartial, can walk around with a logo of another team and he's expected to ref that team and do so impartially. I don't know what's going on, but anyways, he will be the ref for tomorrow's match. And there's more because the VAR referee is the referee from the Barcelona versus Inter a few years ago. I think it was in 2022. Remember that hand by Dumfries that was clearly in the penalty box that should have awarded Barcelona a penalty kick? But yet the VAR completely failed to notify the referee on the field that there was a clear hand by Dumfries in the penalty box. And the excuse was they thought it was Ansu Fati. I guess all black players look alike, right? So hand by Dumfries, hand by Ansu, and they all look the same, right? But it's going to be the same VAR referee. So what does this mean? It means that tomorrow Barcelona are going to have to be extra cautious. They cannot leave any room for error because with Simon Marciniak on the field and with the same VAR referee in the VAR room, Barcelona cannot leave anything to chance, and we're going to have to be clinical. We're going to have to come out full intensity, overload Inter Milan's defense, create spaces, create chances, hopefully score plenty of goals, and then be careful with the counter attacks because, well, the referees, we're going to have to be very careful in case they do make any wrong calls. Now, that's not all. It's not just the referee, but there's more because remember this guy, Infantino, the president of the FIFA? Well, he was asked about tomorrow's match. He's like, oh, what do you think? Barcelona versus Inter Milan. And he said, well, everyone knows that I've always been an Inter Milan fan. Just like that. Now, don't get me wrong. It's fine that the president of FIFA has a team. That's normal. If you are in the football world, whether as part of a FIFA or UEFA or part of a league's board, it's not natural that you're going to favor a team because most likely you're a fan of the sport. And if you're a fan of the sport, you're going to have a team that you prefer. But one thing is to be a fan of a team, and another thing is to be in a position of power, the most powerful position in all of football, the president of the FIFA, and then come out, publicly state in front of the press a day before the match to say, oh, I'm a fan of Inter Milan. I mean, are we no longer living in the days where conflict of interest exists? Because look, if Infantino is a fan of Inter Milan, that's fine. But to go out and say it out loud to the press a day before the semifinal between Inter Milan and Barcelona, I mean, come on. Let's have some common sense here. First, we have to deal with Tebas constantly reminding us that he's a Real Madrid fan. Then we have the president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation also always talking about how he's a big fan of Real Madrid. And now apparently the president of FIFA is now telling us that he's that he is a fan of Inter Milan a day before a semifinal between Barcelona and Inter Milan. I don't know what the hell is going on, but this is just getting a little bit out of control. Now, more news because we're still on the topic of the match between Barcelona and Inter Milan, and we do have bad news aside from the referee news. But that is that, of course, you probably heard by now, is that Alejandro Balde has been ruled out for tomorrow's match. Now, Alejandro Balde was recovering ahead of schedule. It was looking really good for our left back, but unfortunately, it seems that Barcelona have made the tough decision not to include him for tomorrow because can he play tomorrow? Yes, he can. But the type of muscle injury that he has is a kind of injury that if he plays, he could risk getting re-injured. And Barcelona have done the prudent thing, the difficult prudent thing to say, look, we know you can play. We know if you do play, it's probably going to be a huge boost for us, but we're not going to risk your health. And they have decided to rule out Alejandro Balde. So unfortunate news because it looked like he was recovering. He was recovering pretty fast. He was going to be available tomorrow, but that's not going to be the case. And that, of course, leaves us without any starting fullbacks because we know Koundé is, of course, injured. He's not going to make it. Now, Balde is not going to make it. So that leaves the big question. What's going to happen tomorrow as far as our fullbacks? Now, it's reported that Flick and his staff are already, coming up with a plan on how to resolve this. We don't know what the plan is because, of course, Flick has been very good about protecting his lineups. Last season, unfortunately, what's his name? I forgot his name, but he's a really good friend of Xabi. He used to leak Xabi's lineups all the time. Of course, Xabi did not like that. Javi Miguel, that was his name. But Flick has been really good about safeguarding his lineup. So we don't know exactly what he could do, but we could imagine what he could do. And that's, of course, include our 4 center backs in the line of 4 center backs with. There are plenty of options, right? We can have Inigo Martinez and Pau Cubarsí as our 2 center backs, like it always has been, with Araujo as a right back, because Araujo has played in that position before. And of course, Eric Garcia as a left back, because Eric Garcia has played in that position before when he played with Girona. Another option could be maybe Inigo Martinez as a left back, because Inigo has played as a left back, with Pau Cubarsí and Araujo as our 2 center backs, and Eric Garcia as a right back, because Eddie Garcia did play as a right back a few weeks ago, and he did a wonderful job. I was completely astonished at how good Eddie Garcia was in the right back position. Or maybe, actually, no, that's probably the only 2 options that I can think of, right? Inigo as a left back with Araujo, Cubarsí center backs, and Eric as a right back, or Araujo as a right back with Eddie Garcia on the left back, and Pau and Inigo as 2 center backs. And of course, I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Who do you think should be the starting for Hansi Flick in the defensive line? I don't think it's going to be Hector Ford. This is not a match to be trying out Hector Ford. I think we've seen clearly from the 2 matches that Hector Ford played recently that, yes, he is very good offensively. He has a lot of potential, but defensively, he has a lot of work to do. I mean, he was getting cooked, absolutely cooked against Real Valladolid, and that's a bottom of the table team. Real Valladolid are in the 20th spot. They are going to be relegated no matter what happens in these remaining matches. And he was absolutely getting cooked because he's just not good tracking back. He's not going good coming back. Of course, he's still young. He has plenty of room to improve. But right now is not the time to have Hector Ford. Of course, Gerard Martin, much better than Hector Ford defensively. But offensively, he leaves you, asking for a lot more. So I don't think that Gerard Martin could start tomorrow. Or maybe he could. Maybe Gerard Martin on the left, Pau Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez are 2 center backs, and Eric Garcia on the right, or Araujo on the right? Again, we don't know, but I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts. What do you think is going to be the lineup for our 4 defenders? And now from bad news, we go to great news, because, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Lewandowski has been officially cleared. Now, of course, I brought this news to you several days ago. It was last week. I told you Lewandowski was on his way to be cleared and that he was going to be included. And well, now it's official. He has received the green light. He has traveled with the team to Italy. And this, of course, great news, because we are going to need our goal scorer, our top goal scorer, our Pichichi, the Polish box predator, Robert Lewandowski. Now, it's not expected that Lewandowski will start. Ferran Torres will start with Lewandowski coming off the bench, which I think could be a great strategy, because remember, Ferran Torres, a lot more mobile. He's someone who likes to run around, go in the box, outside the box, right, left. He likes to move a lot. So that could be good. Have Ferran Torres run a lot. And once Inter Milan are getting tired, whereas the defenders are exhausted from all the pressure that Barcelona will apply to them, you bring in Lewandowski, fresh off the bench, ready to turn those passes into goals. And I think it could really work. And finally, more good news, because Gabi can also be, will also be available for tomorrow's match. As you know, against Real Valladolid, we saw Gabi at the 79th minute grabbing his hamstring. He sat down on the ground. He requested a substitution, but it's been revealed that he did not get injured. It was simply fatigue. We know that Gabi runs a lot. He covers a lot of ground. He plays with a lot of intensity. He is, he's never stops. He's like the road runner. So it was just fatigue. It was not an injury. So he will be available for tomorrow's match. And of course, that's also great news. I don't think he will start. I think it's going to be, Pedri, Frankie, Dani Olmo as our starting 3. But in case Hansi Flick needs them, Gabi will be available. And of course, my question to you is not only what's your starting 4 defenders, I also want to hear your whole starting lineup. I think it's going to be Szczesny, maybe Araujo as a right back, Inigo, Cubarsí, Eric as our left back, Pedri, Frankie, Dani Olmo, no question, Lamine, Ferran, and then Rafinha, with Lewandowski coming off the bench for Ferran Torres. All right, that's my prediction. I want to hear yours. Let me know in the chat section or in the comment section. And let's start with the chat section. And then we are going to talk about Javier Tebas, because it could be the end of his presidency. We do have donations. The first one is from 1350 Joker. Thank you so much, my friend, for your generous donation. I really appreciate it. But Joker says, getting off work early. Vamos, Vizca Barça. Vizca Barça, indeed, my friend. I really hope the team pulls a win tomorrow. I really think that this Barcelona has more than what it takes to compete with Inter Milan, as we saw during the first half. As remember when I did the post match live analysis, I said, you know what, I'm not worried because yes, it was 3-3. Yes, Barcelona made some silly mistakes. Yes, 2 goals were from corner kick. Yes, we're going now to a San Siro where technically Inter Milan have the advantage, but nonetheless, what I saw was a Barcelona that was much stronger than Inter Milan, a Barcelona that dominated Inter Milan, that generated a lot of chances, that maintained ball possession. I saw a Barcelona that was stronger than Inter Milan, but unfortunately, silly mistakes really, really punished us. So I think for tomorrow, as long as Barcelona work on those mistakes, especially defending corner kicks, I think we should be fine because we saw that even though Inter Milan have the best defense in all of Europe, Barcelona were still able to score 3 goals. So I think if Barcelona will still be able to score goals tomorrow, the question is, can they stop Inter Milan's counterattacks? And that's going to be the big question mark tomorrow. I think Barcelona can. I think we could definitely compete with Inter Milan. This is not a match that I'm going into thinking, oh man, Inter Milan, they're better than us. Hopefully we can win. But no, I'm going in thinking Barcelona is better than Inter Milan. We could definitely win this. Are we going to? I don't know. The better team doesn't always win, right? This is football. And we could easily lose tomorrow. But am I worried that we're not good enough to face Inter Milan? Absolutely not. That's not the case. But anyways, thank you, my friend, for your donation. And another donation, this one from Baby's Comeback, who says, what's up, Mo? Would put Christensen as left back tomorrow. Interesting. I wouldn't, not because I doubt Christensen's abilities. I wouldn't because Christensen just came back from injury. He only started against Real Valladolid. He had a few minutes during the first leg of the semifinal, but I don't know if I would want to risk it with a guy who's just getting back into competitive rhythm, right? I would want players who have been playing throughout the season. I mean, sure, Eddie Garcia Araujo have not been starting. It's been Cuarci and Iñigo, but they've been getting consistent minutes. So they are in a better form or more in form than Christensen, right? Again, not to doubt Christensen's abilities because I think he's a great defender, but I would prefer players who have been playing consistently throughout the season versus someone who just came back. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you, my friend, for your donation and for your comment. And let's look at what Mike Valencia has to say because he said, hey, Mo, I'm very nervous about tomorrow's match. Everything's set up for a loss. Refs appointed Nobal de Kunde away from home. I pray this team can show me again why we are the best club. Again, I'm not nervous. I'm not worried. Doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy win. It doesn't mean we're even going to win. But I saw a much stronger Barcelona than Inter Milan during the first leg. Again, 2 goals were from corner kicks. Inter Milan scored 2 goals from corner kicks. So if we could really fix those mistakes and defend well against corners, I mean, that's 2 goals right there, right? It could have been 3-1 had we not made those silly mistakes. So we've shown that we can unlock Inter Milan's defense, even though they're the best defense in Europe. So as long as we are careful with our defensive mistakes, I think we have a really good chance of making it to the final. Again, we could still lose. The better team doesn't always win, but I think we are the better team. I don't think we're the underdogs going into this. I think we are the better team. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but I have confidence in these guys that they could definitely compete against the Serie A club. And we do have another donation, Mustafa Ibrahim, who says, hopefully Flick bench Martin. We'll see. I know Martin gets a lot of hate. I don't know why, honestly. Yes, he had a couple of bad matches, but so far, besides those 2 bad matches, I think he's been doing an adequate job. Again, it's not an amazing job. It's not like, wow, Gerard Martí, you are a future Ballon d'Or or anything like that. Nowhere close to Alejandro Valde, of course. But I think he's done adequate job. Again, the last 2 matches against Madrid and Inter Milan, he did show some weaknesses here and there, but I think he's a solid option to rotate. Let's just say that. He does an adequate job. We do miss a lot of offensive power when he's on the field because unfortunately we don't have he's not an attacking fullback. He's just not. He never has been. I don't know if people did not know that and we're expecting that Gerard Martin was gonna be like Balde, grab the ball and drive all the way or make crazy crosses. He's not that. He's never been that. He's always been a defensive left back. Because remember, Gerard Martin did not come up through the academy. We signed Gerard Martin from Cornellà. And most left backs usually are defensive players. They know how to defend. They don't know how to attack, right? Kunde, when he started playing as a right back, his attacking skills were not that great because he was used to defending as a center back, right? And then he had to learn how to become an attacking fullback. Most defenders, whether they're center backs or fullbacks, are really good at defending, not so good pushing forward. Barcelona, of course, in the academy, even if you're a center back, you learn how to push forward, how to drive the ball forward, how to make forward passes. And of course, our fullbacks are always expected to attack and make crosses. That doesn't happen in most teams. So when you sign fullbacks from other teams, most of the time they're only defenders. And that's Gerard Martin, right? Again, I'm not saying he's great. Don't get me wrong. Don't be like, Mo thinks Gerard Martin is a Ballon d'Or winner and the greatest. No. He's an adequate player. Now, would I start him? No, I wouldn't start him. But if you have no other option, then you have no other option, right? But I think he does get a little more hate than what he deserves. Again, I'm not saying he's great. I'm not like, ooh, Gerard Martin, oh my God, I'm so glad he's on the field. But I also think he gets a little more hate than what he deserves. Baby's comeback says, did height play a part in Inter's goals? I don't think it was heights. I think it was just silly mistakes. First, there was the Jules Koundé mistake. No, wait, that was a Real Madrid match. I'm trying to remember the goals. One was Dumfries. The other one was, who was the other goal? See, I'm so many goals that I can't even remember. But both of them were just like defensive gaps. Like Dumfries, he's by himself. He hits that ball completely by himself. I can't remember who was supposed to be marking him. Also, Szczesny did this weird thing where he jumps backwards. Like, he looks like he's trying to do the bridge in yoga. I don't know what the hell he did there. I can't remember the third goal for some reason. I just can't. But anyways, it was defensive mistakes. I don't know about height. Height could play a role, but I think if you mark your man well enough, you could still make him uncomfortable enough to where he doesn't head it the way he wants to. Even if you're a small player, right? Even if you're like someone like Gabi, you might not get to the ball, but if you jump and you're staying close to your defender, you can still throw him a little bit off balance. I'm not talking about like shove him down and get a penalty, but I think you could still make him uncomfortable to where he doesn't just jump in the air by himself all the time in the world, looks where he wants to head it, heads it full on, which is the two goals that Inter Milan scored, right? Completely unbothered. And that cannot happen, right? Even if you're a shorter defender, you still got to make it uncomfortable for the attacker. Even if the attacker ends up scoring, at least try to make it uncomfortable for him and where he doesn't head it with total ease, right? But anyways, let's get back to the news. Oh my God, 22 minutes, and I still have only covered one section. But let's get back to the news. Again, like I said, I've missed you guys. I hate when I don't do podcasts. So I'm so glad I'm back with these podcasts because I love interacting with you guys. It's not the same when I make videos only and just read your comments. It's not the same answering like this live. But anyways, I don't want to get distracted. Let's get back to the news because, ladies and gentlemen, Luis Rubiales, the former president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, the disgraced former president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, has filed a complaint against Javier Tebas with the Administrative Court of Sports, or the Arbitration Court of Sports, I should say, for abuse of power. Now, let's recap here a little bit. If you don't know who Luis Rubiales is, he used to be the president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation. He ended up having to resign because when the women's Spanish national team won the Women's World Cup, he went up to one of the players, kissed her on the mouth, and then there was this huge, controversy. And, was it consensual? Was it not consensual? It got taken to court. It was a huge scandal. So he ended up having to step down as the president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, and now he has brought a case against Javier Tebas for abuse of power. Now, what does this case stem from? It stems from a meeting that happened on May 28th, 2022, during which, pay attention to this because this is some crazy shit, but also this is Spanish politics for you, not just in football, but in general. But on May 28th, 2022, Javier Tebas met with Miguel Garcia Cava. Now, Miguel Garcia Cava was part of the Royal Spanish Football Federation's board. I can't remember his exact position, but it's not too relevant for this, or it's not relevant for this. And during that meeting, Javier Tebas offered Miguel Garcia Cava 150,000 euros in exchange for Garcia Cava to resign from his position and pay attention to this because this is freaking crazy, and to give access to Javier Tebas to the servers of the Royal Spanish Football Federation so he can access confidential information. Okay? We're talking about the president of La Liga trying to bribe a member of the Royal Spanish Football Federation with La Liga money in order to get access to confidential information from the servers of the Royal Spanish Football Federation. Now, you might ask, what did Javier Tebas want with this information? He wanted to get Luis Rubiales out of his position. This is I can't write this. Like, the script writers cannot write this. The president of La Liga offering to bribe a member of the Royal Spanish Football Federation using funds from La Liga so he can get access to confidential information so then he can blackmail the president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation and force him to resign. Yes, those are the allegations. Yes, this is Spanish football, but more importantly, this is Spain. That's how Spanish politics operate, if you don't know by now. So again, when some idiot on the internet tells you about how referees are favor Barcelona and how Barcelona, negrita, just remind them of all this crazy shit that happens in Spain. And it all stems from Madrid, because Florentino Perez is not the most powerful man in Spain. He is the center of power in Spain. And shit like this happens all the time. So Luis Rubiales has brought a case to the court, to the sports arbitration court, and he's asking that Javier Tebas be removed from all his positions, including as president of La Liga and his newly elected role where he's the vice president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, which, by the way, only Spain can something like this happen. How can he be the president of La Liga and the vice president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation? I have no fucking idea. But he has asked for Javier Tebas to be removed from all these positions. Of course, this case will have to be played out in court. Remember, innocent until proven guilty. But if the court finds that these allegations are true, this could spell the end of Javier Tebas as the president of La Liga. And if that happens, I think that would be the biggest victory for the Spanish league. Now, by the way, here's the cool twist. Mr. Miguel Garcia Cava, the guy who Javier Tebas offered to bribe, claims he has recordings from this conversation. He has Javier Tebas on tape offering to bribe him. I can't make this shit up, guys. I cannot make this shit up. Fucking crazy. But anyways, let's get back to the chat section. And they say we Barcelona fans are crazy and we like to imagine things. But yeah, this actually happens. Kurt Alexander says, hi, Mo. I'm just hoping that we don't get too overconfident and let our guard down. I'm predicting 1-2 in our favor tomorrow. God's will. You know what? Actually, you know what I think is? I think that maybe the 3-3 was a blessing, because I don't think the players tomorrow are going to San Siro overconfident. I think the players saw that Inter Milan is a real threat, that, you know, they got scored on 3 times and the 2 goals in the first, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So I think that was it might have been a blessing in disguise, because now the players are going to go out there and thinking, okay, this team can cause us a lot of damage, so we have to be careful. We cannot let our guard down. We have to be 100% focused, because this team in just a split second can score a goal against you, because Inter Milan only had 3 attempts, and all 3 attempts were goals. That's 100% efficiency. So I think, if anything, I don't think that team's going to be overconfident tomorrow, because they saw what happened during the first leg. All right, we have more donation. My goodness. You guys are incredibly generous. But Richard says, welcome back, Mo. Welcome back home, Mo. Do we know if Balde will be ready for a Clásico? Thanks for your excellent news and video. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. The goal right now is for Balde to come back for El Clásico. It's not for sure. What we do know for sure is that he's ruled out for tomorrow for the Champions League. But the goal right now is for him to return to El Clásico. It's all going to depend how he progresses, right? We'll see how he feels tomorrow. We'll see how he feels on Wednesday. We'll see how he feels. Because he could be like still, and then on Friday he wakes up and he's completely fine, right? So it just depends how he progresses. Again, from here until the Clásico, there are several days, and any of those days, his discomfort or his tissue could heal or his discomfort can go away. We'll see. So no guarantees yet for a Clásico, but for sure will not be available tomorrow. Hopefully he will be back, because if we win against Real Madrid in El Clásico, which we're more than capable of doing because we already done it 4 times, that's of course including the preseason, which I guess we shouldn't include. So 3 times this season. And if we do, that means we can win La Liga against Espanyol in the derby, which is crazy because the last league we won was against Espanyol in the derby. And to win another La Liga in the derby, I mean, Espanyol fans would probably jump off buildings or something. Of course, that's just a joke, guys. Anyways, we have another donation from Shin, who promised me he would never change his name again, but he did. But that's okay. I forgive him because he's an incredible fan of the channel. But thank you, my friend, for your generosity as always. But Shin says, "Welcome home, Mo. I don't understand when we saw it last season why Flick won't play Araujo at right back, and it worked. Martinez at left back with Cuarci and Christensen as a center back. I personally think it worked out well. What do you say?" I think we've seen that a lot of things that Xavi used to try does not necessarily work under Flick because they're 2 different systems, right? So just because Araujo worked as a right back under Xavi doesn't mean he would work under Flick, right? Great example, Inigo, right? Inigo was on his way out. He wasn't even getting minutes under Xavi because he just wasn't working out. Now he's our best center back next to Cuarci. Ferran Torres, I mean, that guy wasn't even getting minutes during training. And now every time he comes off the bench, he scores a goal. Rafinha was on his way out too because he was trash for 2 seasons. And now we're talking about Ballon d'Or, right? So we've seen that what worked under Xavi and what didn't work under Xavi is not the same as what works and doesn't work under Flick because they're completely 2 different systems. And as far as Araujo as a right back, it might work. I'm not saying it won't. But here's the thing, what you lose with Araujo as a right back. You lose attack. And Barcelona heavily relies on its fullbacks to attack, right? So it becomes kind of like a case of Gerard Martin, but on the right. Because why? Because Araujo doesn't have that ability to pass, whether it's forward passes or even like freaking sideways passes. Like Araujo is a beast defending. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the best defenders in Europe. Till this day, I insist on that. Even if he hasn't been great for Flick. But he's still, like, defensively speaking, he's a beast. I mean, he is. We saw it against Real Valladolid, by the way. His ability to run back and catch up to an attacker that's like 10 feet ahead of him is amazing. He'll catch up to him and then get the ball cleanly. But unfortunately, attacking is just not his forte. Because, again, most defenders, whether they're fullbacks or center backs, in most teams, they don't really practice their offense because their job is to defend, and that's it. Where in Barcelona, we expect to be able to attack with all of our 11. We even expect our goalkeepers to be able to make forward passes. And Araujo just doesn't have that ability. Again, I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but I think I would rather have Eddie Garcia. And I think Eddie Garcia, we saw how amazing he is as a fullback. But of course, with Kunde and Balde out, we might have to play Araujo as the right back and Eric as left. Or maybe Eric on the right and Iñigo on the left and Araujo as a center back, right? So, again, I'm not saying it won't work, but just because it worked under Xavi doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work under Flick because we've seen a lot of things that worked under Xavi or didn't work under Xavi don't necessarily work or don't work under Flick because they're just completely different systems. But anyways, let's get back to the news because speaking of things that worked and didn't work before, we do have to talk about who will be Barcelona's goalkeeper because, of course, we did see Marc Stergen make a comeback after 9 months of absence. Our German goalkeeper, who unfortunately underwent a very serious injury, tore his ligament in his knee, had to undergo surgery to repair it, was out of action for 9 months. We finally saw him back against Real Valladolid. And I know a lot of people are hating on him again, calling him their statue, blah, 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 which is very disrespectful, by the way. But Ter Stegen is probably one of the most goalkeepers in our history. But I thought he did a good job. I mean, that goal was a very silly goal that he conceded, but I don't think that was his fault. It was just a weird bounce where the ball bounced off. I think it was Ansu's or Araujo's foot. I think it was Ansu's foot. And the way he just did the weird turn, I don't think anybody expected for the ball to do that. But besides that, I mean, he had two very important stops that could have easily cost us 3 points. But the question is, now that Ter Stegen is back, is he going to be the starting goalkeeper? And luckily, Hansi Flick answered our question. So we can't say for certain who will be the goalkeeper, because this is what Flick said after the match against Real Valladolid. Now, when asked about the goalkeeper, Hansi Flick said, in the second half, he showed his quality. It's good to see him like this. Szczesny will play in the Champions League and against Madrid. So there you have it. That's the answer directly from Hansi Flick. This is not me speculating. This is not the media speculating. This is directly from the mouth of our coach, Hansi Flick, who says Szczesny will continue to be the goalkeeper in the Champions League. We know that even from previous statements, because when Ter Stegen got injured and Barcelona signed Szczesny, Szczesny got registered in the place of Ter Stegen. And the only way for Ter Stegen to play the Champions League is to deregister Szczesny and register Ter Stegen in his place, which, of course, the club have decided that they're not going to do, because Ter Stegen has been out for 9 months. Szczesny has been playing for, 4 months now. It doesn't make sense to switch a goalkeeper who's been doing well and who's been playing for a while for a goalkeeper who just came back, even though Flick, the staff, all consider that Marc Ter Stegen is a better goalkeeper. Yes, fans who hate Ter Stegen. Flick thinks that. Unless you know more than Flick, I agree with Flick. Ter Stegen is a better goalkeeper than Szczesny. But being in form also makes a huge difference. So it doesn't make sense to put a goalkeeper out of form in a place of goalkeeper in form. So we know that in the Champions League is going to be Szczesny until the end. In La Liga, however, that was the question, right? Is now Ter Stegen going to be the goalkeeper in La Liga? Well, according to Flick, in El Clásico, not the case. It's going to be Szczesny. And again, it makes sense. That's a very, very important match. It's against Real Madrid. That match could mean either the end of La Liga and we win it, or it can mean La Liga title starts to slip away. Not completely, because again, even if we lose a Clásico, it would be a point ahead, but still, things would get complicated. So Szczesny will be the goalkeeper for Champions League for a Clásico, and that still leaves the door open that maybe Ter Stegen can still be the goalkeeper for other matches. Maybe Espanyol, maybe Villarreal, maybe Athletic Club de Bilbao. Because at the end, Flick did not say Szczesny is going to be the goalkeeper in the Champions League and the remainder of La Liga. He said in the Champions League and El Clásico. So he didn't specify what's going to happen in the last 3 matches of the season. So it means we could see Ter Stegen once again under the 3 posts. Anyway, so let's get back to the chat section, and then we are going to talk about a different goalkeeper, which is Inaki Pena. All right, let's see. Dennis says we need to let go of Pena and promote the best goalkeeper in from Masia or sign one. We don't need to sign one. We have plenty of good goalkeepers in the academy. Of course, right now, the future bet is Cochen. Diego Cochen. Barcelona think that he will become the future first goalkeeper of the team. So for now, the plan is Ter Stegen as first goalkeeper next season, Szczesny as the second goalkeeper, which most likely is going to be a goalkeeper in the Copa del Rey, and then Diego Cochen to be the third goalkeeper and kind of like start training with Szczesny and Ter Stegen, getting experience, learning the ropes, and then eventually when Szczesny leaves, then Diego Cochen could become the second goalkeeper, and then eventually when Ter Stegen leaves, then Cochen could become the first goalkeeper. And my man Klaus is always good to see you in the chat section. He says Mo is not saying that Gabi can play left back. I wouldn't put Gabi in the left back. I mean, I think Gabi's, we've seen it, his best position is number 6 right next to Pedri. So if at any point Frankie needs rest or maybe things are not working out with Frankie, you can always put in Gabi, but I don't know about putting him in the left back. Muhammad Balah says, hi Mo, my name is Muhammad M. Balah and I'm watching you from Liberia, Monrovia. What's your predictions for tomorrow's match? You know the rule, I don't do predictions. Nima S says, whatever happens, happens. This team gave me more than I hoped for the season, but I'm still keeping my fingers crossed. Bisca Barca. You know what? I'm glad that you brought this point up because the Madrid media are already setting up the narrative. And the narrative is this. If Barcelona don't win the treble, this season is an absolute failure. And to that I say it's absolute horseshit. Because this is Flick's first season. Remember, this team was in shambles. Complete shambles. We didn't win anything last season. And not only that, for people who love to defend Xavi, this team was getting thrashed. Villarreal scored 5 goals against us. Athletic Club de Bilbao scored 4 goals against us. Real Madrid scored 4 goals against us. PSG, what was it, 4 or 5 goals on aggregate. Girona scored 4 goals against us twice. I mean, we were getting thrashed by top and mid-table teams. We were struggling against everybody. Even the smallest team we were struggling against. This team was an absolute shambles. And for the fact, for Flick, to bring this team from the bottomest of the bottoms, and make it into the most powerful team in Europe, that's a huge success, even if we don't win any trophies, which, by the way, we already won 2, so that's impossible. But even if we didn't win any trophies, the fact that a coach in one season can turn a team that was a joke of all of Europe into the best team in Europe in such a short period of time, that's a victory. So don't let the Madrid media convince you that if Barcelona don't win the treble, somehow, some way, this is a huge failure, because it's not. It is not. But of course, there's always a double standard, right? When Real Madrid won the Copa del Rey only, they had a whole parade. That's when Sergio Ramos dropped the cup and it was, oh, we won a trophy. When Barcelona wins one trophy, it's total failure. When Real Madrid win 1-0, champion mentality. When Barcelona win 1-0, oh, this team is struggling. When Real Madrid mount a comeback, oh, Real Madrid, champion mentality. When Barcelona mount a comeback, oh, this team is showing a lot of weaknesses. Look, they had to come back. They got scored on. Double standard. So don't let them convince you that if you don't win the treble, it's not a success, because this is an incredibly successful season, given what Flick was able to do in such a short period of time and with no signings. Let's remember that. Dani Olmo in the place of, what's his name? I'm not forgetting his name. The Turkish guy. Gundogan. One signing that he didn't even request. Just let that sink in. Anyways, let's get back to the news, because we do have to talk about Inaki Pena, since we were talking about goalkeepers, because, ladies and gentlemen, the Barcelona goalkeeper is starting to attract some interest from La Liga clubs. And I say from La Liga clubs because, of course, we do know that Galatasaray have been interested in him for quite some time. Of course, Inaki Pena did go to Galatasaray on loan, where he impressed, and they're still interested in bringing him back. But now we have clubs in La Liga who are also interested in the services of the Barcelona goalkeeper. Now, Inaki Pena's contract expires in 2026, and he has decided that he will be leaving Barcelona because, of course, there is no place for him, because Szczesny will renew. So that means Stergen will be first, Szczesny second. And where does that leave Inaki? Third, maybe even fourth, if Barcelona prioritized Diego Cochen over him. So there is no place for Inaki, so he has decided to leave. And the question will be how he's going to leave, of course, because we have heard those reports where Inaki Pena has told the club through his agent that he only wants to leave for free. In other words, Barcelona give him the letter of freedom. He leaves for free, which, of course, gives him the option to negotiate with whoever he wants, and also the option to negotiate a higher salary, signing bonus, all these things that come with being a free agent, because if the club signing you doesn't have to pay a transfer fee, that means they have more money available to spend on you versus having to spend half the money on the transfer fee and the other half on you, right? So Inaki Pena wants to leave as a free agent. Barcelona want to look to make money off this transfer. We'll see what happens, but there is 2 clubs in La Liga who are interested in Inaki Pena. The first one being Celta Vigo. Celta Vigo are very interested in the service of Inaki Pena because they want to look for someone to compete with their current goalkeeper, Guillermo Fernandez. So they're looking for competition for Guillermo Fernandez, and they think that Inaki Pena's profile could be a very good profile for them. And the other team is Sevilla, who are even more interested in Inaki than Celta, because unlike Celta, who are looking for competition for their goalkeeper, Sevilla are actually looking for a goalkeeper, not for competition, because Álvaro Fernandez, their goalkeeper, his renewal is in doubt, so he could end up leaving. And then there is Nylon, who there is some doubts about him. So Inaki Pena kind of is their future bet. They think Inaki could go to Sevilla and become their starting goalkeeper, which of course it's something that Inaki Pena is looking for because he's getting older. He's not looking to go be a second goalkeeper somewhere else. He can just do that at Barcelona. He can just sit down on the bench and just collect the check and enjoy the beach and eat tapas and have a good life. No, he's looking for first team for a first spot, and Sevilla are kind of offering him that. We'll see what Inaki Pena opts for, and of course, the big question is there going to be a problem with him leaving, or will the club and the goalkeeper eventually reach an agreement? All right, let's do more comments. King City FC says, or FX, sorry, I can't even read anymore. It says, Mo, been watching and keeping up with Fi. We should get him back. When I was looking for a left-footed center back, he's really good, man, and growing. Fi had his chance. Barcelona bet on him. They signed him. They came up with a plan saying, look, this is going to be the plan. This is how you're going to play. This is going to do, blah, blah, blah. Work your way up, just like they do with every youngster they sign or with every youngster they grow through their academy. You know, Barcelona always have a plan. This is what you're going to do. You're going to play for this long in this team, and this long for this team, and this team, and this team, in order to prepare you. And if there's anyone who knows how to prepare youngsters for first teams, is Barcelona, because we have the greatest academy in the world. An academy that produces people like Iniesta, Xavi, Messi, Busquets, Puyol, Piqué, Lamine, Valde, Gabi. I mean, I could go on and on. But an academy that produces players like that, they know what the hell they're doing as far as coming up with a plan for a player so that player can become successful. Fi did not want to follow that plan. Fi wanted a shortcut. Fi wanted guaranteed first team spot and guaranteed first team minutes. And that is not how it works, my friends. You either follow the plan that Barcelona put for you, or there's the door. Fi chose the door, so I'm sorry. When the door closes, it closes. So he had his chance. He wasted his chance. That's on him. It is what it is. Shin says, I personally think it's a moronic question by the press. You can't expect a dude who's been out for 9 months to just walk right back and play Champions League level. I'm also sure the press know the registration situation. I agree, but here's one thing about sports media. I don't know if they're lazy or they're not bright, but a lot of times when I'm watching these press conferences and I'm like, did you seriously just ask that? I don't know if they just kind of like have a quota like, okay, go out there and you have to ask 2 questions. And they're like, okay, I got to ask 2 questions. Don't matter what it is. Let me just get it out the way so I can clock out and go home. Mr. Flick, how's your day going? Okay, cool. Okay, second question. What do you think of Lamine Yamal? I was like, I think he's great. Okay, cool. Thank you. Clock out, go home. I don't know what it is, but sometimes all the time, these questions in the press conferences, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, is that all you can come up with? Like, come on. And Shin also says, Coach Chen is such a keeper name. I love it. Yeah, it really is. He is half Peruvian, half American, by the way. Born in Miami, if I'm not mistaken, to a Peruvian mother and an American dad. Pretty interesting. He did opt for the U.S., so he technically plays for the U.S. So I guess we have another American. Des left, and Coach Chen is like, yo, I'm here to represent. Which, by the way, I never considered Des to be American, and let me emphasize on that. He's American through his father, right? But he never lived in the U.S. He was born and raised and lived his whole life in the Netherlands. So I was like, I guess he's American by default, paperwork wise. But Coach was actually born and raised here, so. But I don't know. I guess I'm gonna get in trouble now for saying that Des is not American. And it has nothing to do with his race. It's just the fact that he never stepped foot in America. But anyways. Klaus says, someone in the chat was mistaken thinking you said Gabi could play left. Oh, no. Gabi can't play. Okay, I see what you mean. And Shin says, Flick and this team massively overachieved this season. If you ask me, I love this team. 100% agree with you. It really is. So again, don't let them convince you that just because we don't win the Trebel, which I hope we win, it's a failure, because it's not. And this team has been absolutely remarkable. This team has returned the joy to Barcelona fans after so many years being joyless. I mean, people like to reminisce about, oh, Valverde was a good coach. No, he wasn't. Go back and watch Valverde's matches, and there was nothing joyful about watching those matches except watching Messi. But we haven't felt this kind of joy watching our team play. And I'm not talking about wins. I'm not talking about goals. I'm not talking about thrashings. I'm talking about just watching the team and be like, whoa, oh, shit, did you see that? That kind of joy. Like, I look forward to matches. Like, oh my God, come on. Like, 22 hours, 17 minutes, and 32 seconds. Let's go. What is the match going to start? Like, that kind of joy. And that's because how beautiful this team plays. And that hasn't happened since Luis Enrique left. For people who now like to trash Luis Enrique. Apparently, he had the MSN, so he's not a good coach. And who did Pep Guardiola have? A bunch of bums? I forgot. I guess Pep Guardiola had Braithwaite as his center forward, Trincao, and I don't know, Junior Firpo, right? He had the best Barca ever. Every great coach had a great team. You cannot win championships without having a great team. If Pep went to Real Valladolid tomorrow, he's not going to win a treble. Okay, you need great players. So this whole because Luis Enrique had that MSN doesn't mean he's a good coach it's a pretty moronic thing to say. Not to mention, look at what he's doing with PSG. Christopher says, let the Madrid TV go and get a treble. We have 2 already, so if we didn't win this season, no worries. Tell them to get one. That's true. They have none. We have 2. El Pollito says, Mo, I'm still traumatized from Anfield, May 6th, Green Kit semifinal. No, this is different, my friends. This is different. Now, Barcelona cannot repeat the same mistakes as against Inter, but if they play the same way, offensively speaking, we have a good chance. And Edwin says, Lamine the Dream will create the chances. Ferran, Olmo, and Rafinha just have to take them. And also Lewy. Don't forget, he's coming in. And Tien V Win says, yo, Mo, how you doing? Do you think Inter will have a way to counter Lamine? I mean, look, even if they do, and this is the greatness of having players who make a difference. Even if Inter put 3 players on Lamine, 3 defenders on Lamine, and somehow they managed to shut him down, which, by the way, that's what they did during the first leg. Sometimes he would have 3 players on him, 3 defenders, and he would still be able to dribble past them. So even if they did 3 defenders on him, that's fine. Because guess what that does? That opens up interior corridors. Because if there's 3 guys on Lamine, that means there's someone who's not on Ferran. That means there's someone who's not on Rafinha. That means there's someone who's not on Pedri, or someone who's not on Frankie, or someone who's not on Olmo, right? If you're taking players away from to defend one guy, you're leaving other Barca players who are unmarked. So, and that's the greatness of having players like Lamine. Not only can they cause a lot of damage, but even if you shut them down, that opens up chances for other players to cause damage because now you had to pull defenders away from these other players to mark Lamine. So I'm not worried. But anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, 52 minutes. I wasn't lying when I said I missed you guys and that I missed doing these podcasts because 52 minutes is incredibly long. Thank you for bearing with me and listening to me blab for 52 minutes. I am gonna post 2 videos tonight because I didn't do any videos yesterday because my flight was delayed by 5 hours, courtesy of Newark Airport, where they are short-staffed in control tower. Also, they have outdated computers in the control tower, which crash all the time, and they're fixing the tarmac. So they've had canceled and delayed flights every single day for the past 8 days. One of those flights was mine. I ended up landing at 3 a.m. Barely slept, and I had to work all day today. So I know I didn't make any videos yesterday, but I'm posting 2 more. So stay tuned to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, peace, Barca.